Hey there, thanks for clicking this video. My name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to tell you about KetoStix and whether or not you need them and the people who do need them. So if you've heard any of the hype about the ketogenic diet, you might have heard about KetoStix or keto blood measuring devices or using blood glucometers, aka the blood sugar measuring devices that diabetics use for ketosis. So at the end of the day, for those of you who don't know, I've been doing this diet for 7 years, and I've really experienced all the different variations of ketosis, all the different depths of ketosis, and at the same time I can tell you that you don't need KetoStix. The people who do need KetoStix are those who are trying to reach ketosis for medical reasons. I'll get into those in a second, but in general, here's the deal. The number one thing when people ask me about whether or not they need to measure their own ketones is they think that deeper ketosis equals more fat loss. Now, if you're eating ketogenic food, deeper ketosis does not mean more fat loss. Deeper ketosis means more fat loss if you're fasting and you're not eating at all. Because when you're eating food and your ketones are very high, this means that the makeup of your diet is creating more ketones from the food that you're consuming. So it's not necessarily higher amount of ketones coming from stored body fat, unlike the case that it would be for if you just weren't eating. Because when you're eating food, the amount that you're eating in general is going to limit how deep of ketosis you can go. And if you're using more intermittent fasting, that would actually be a better way to raise your ketones naturally, assuming you're eating ketogenic lifestyle. Now, as far as measuring your ketones, here's the deal. You're going to know if you're in ketosis or not. And all that matters is that you get into ketosis. It doesn't matter how deep you are once you're eating food, for several reasons, and here's why. The first one is that when you actually first enter ketosis, your body will be excreting a lot more ketones than you actually are using. So what's going to happen is if you were to give a newbie these KetoStix, they would basically show with a reading that is much higher than what their body's actually using. So because their body is learning how to use these ketones, it's going to excrete a lot more ketones in the blood, saliva, urine, wherever you're measuring. So basically, you're going to have a lot more, well, actually the blood would be a better choice, but saliva and urine would have a lot higher readings of ketones because your body's getting rid of them. So in general, it wouldn't even be accurate, and it won't even be accurate for you until at least a month into the diet. So in general, all you need to concern yourself with is eating keto foods, eating keto macros, and basically from there, you will know instinctively based on your appetite, based on how you feel, whether or not you're in ketosis. How deep you are in ketosis will be basically a consequence of what your macro makeup is. So if you're eating higher fats, you will be in deeper ketosis, and you will have great performance benefits, you will have great focus and mental benefits than somebody with lower ketones. However, you don't necessarily need to be pushing the scale of fat consumption to 90% just so you can have higher ketones. You can have perfectly adequate and perfectly smooth levels of ketones even if you're eating 65-70% fat. So you don't need to push it to the ceiling, which is what a lot of people will tell you. A lot of people don't know the keto diet well enough to the point where they'll just say you need to eat high fat to be in ketosis. You don't. The only thing you need to do is cut out your carbs. From there, the amount of fats that you're eating will determine how deep into the water you go, right? All you need to do is jump in. From there, you can decide whether or not you want to go to the deep end or whether you want to go to, the sandbar, right? The point is that once you're in the water, once you're in ketosis, that's the most important thing, if I'm sticking with the analogy here. So as far as KetoStix, they're not necessary unless you need to measure your ketones for medical purposes like epilepsy, because ketosis and fasting basically cure epilepsy. And if you're somebody with a condition like that or an autoimmune disorder, perhaps you should pick up KetoStix or some sort of blood glucometer. Now, from what I've learned from reading various books on keto, if you were to actually use a device to measure your ketones, and you didn't want to go for, you're past the month, you actually really want to measure your ketones, you would be best to use not only one of these ketone measuring devices, but you would actually get more information out of using a blood glucometer. So this is what measures the sugars in your blood. So let's say, for example, you're eating keto for a month or two, right? From there, how low your blood sugar would be indicative of how deep into ketosis you are, because depending on how well your body is used to keto, so that's a little confusing, but if you know that you're not used to keto, don't concern yourself with a keto measuring device, because your body might be not using them as effectively as you might think. So you might be excreting more, you might show false higher readings than you'd like. So for somebody who is newer, you might be better off if you truly were inclined to use a blood glucometer, because from there you would be able to see that your blood sugars are much lower. And from there you could determine that your blood sugars could only be this low if your body was using more ketones. So essentially, that is the only and the best way that I would advise you to go about actually measuring your blood ketones and blood sugars would be through a blood glucometer, unless you are somebody who is adapted to keto, in which case you can get one of the keto blood measuring electronic devices. That would be a lot more advantageous for you, but you would honestly want to mix and match and see how various blood sugar ratings influence your levels of ketones. So you don't need KetoStix, you don't need any sort of fancy measuring devices, you don't need to measure. All that matters is that you're in ketosis, and from there, the depth of ketosis is honestly just a personal preference, and you'll learn about how you feel with different macro makeups in the diet. So hopefully that gave you some clarity. You don't need KetoStix. They're not necessarily a scam, but they're really kind of a dodgy product, because you're only going to get good use out of them if you're somebody who's adapted. And in which case, if you were adapted, you'd probably just be buying an electronic device anyways. So there you go. That's the video on KetoStix and do you need to measure your ketones. So done. Thanks for watching. My name is Anthony Romano, and please ask me a question, anything like that you'd want me to answer. I'll get back to you. I get back to everybody. So thank you for watching. Peace.